Welcome everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition it's Samurai Pizza Cats, brought to us by Tecmo. Now, Samurai Pizza Cats is an action platformer based on the Japanese anime, which was brought over to North America as Samurai Pizza Cats, with pretty much a different translation than the original Japanese version. However, it was a very fun cartoon and one that I remember fondly from my childhood. Now, I'm sure the release in North America was probably due to the popularity of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The show was brought over to North America in syndication and actually saw a 52-episode run. Now, just a few small notes before we get going with my run of Samurai Pizza Cats. I'm going to be referring to the characters in the North American version translation, so I'll probably be calling them by their North American names. Not only is that the version I'm most familiar with, obviously, but I don't want to accidentally mispronunciate anything unnecessarily. I also will be skipping all the cutscenes during the course of the game. There's cutscenes before, during, and after most of the levels that take on for a good amount of time. You can't speed through the text, and they do eat up a lot of minutes. The length of the video will probably be double what it is with those cutscenes included. And since they all are in Japanese, it probably wouldn't be very interesting to look at. So here we go with Samurai Pizza Cats for the NES. Now, the action platforming of the game is pretty basic. The graphics look pretty nice for the 1991 release date that this game got, as well as since it was made by Tecmo, creators of the Ninja Gaiden series, the gameplay is very solid. One of the very cool things about the game is not only do you get a choice before each level of which character you want to play as, one of the three main Pizza Cats, who I will be alternating between during the course of the run. Every other level I'll play as a different character. Right now I'm playing as the main leader of the group, Speedy. However, you can also switch to some support characters, known as the Rescue Team. They have special abilities that can help you get through certain areas, whether or not it's flying over a gap, swimming, or busting down a rock. There's 4 members of the support team, and I'll be switching to the first one here. Now, this is General Catan, who can break down rocks when he punches them. Now, when first playing the game, one thing you may not get right away is how to run. You actually have to double tap the left or right button to run in that direction, something a little bit different than most platformers. Now, here's our first boss of the game. We have a giant robot penguin. Now, what you have to do damage to him is jump up and swipe him in the face. Every time you hit him in the face, you can see that a little spark comes out that indicates that you actually did damage to him. Take your time, avoid the UFOs that are going around them at the same time, which are pretty easy to dodge, as well as you can attack them to destroy them. Now, after a pretty easy boss battle, we now move on to stage number 2. Now, in this level, I'm using Guido, who uses an umbrella for a weapon. Now, one of the other main things about gameplay is you can see you actually have projectile weaponry as well. Each character has 3 types of projectile weaponry. You upgrade it as you go through each level, but once you complete a level, it goes back down to the original first level. All of them have a main throw-out projectile, whether or not it's a ninja star, a shuriken, or a heart dart for Polly. But then with each of the characters, as you level it up, it has slightly different maneuverability. When you reach the 3rd level is kind of their super attack, which deals out a pretty good amount of damage to any kind of boss enemy on screen, as well as wipes out all the other enemies on screen as well. I'll show off at least one of the characters through the course of the game. Now, here is our second boss of the game. It's a giant angelfish. Now, to hit it, you just have to jump up and do damage to it, usually hitting it in the face. And if you time your hits correctly, you can actually jump up, hit it, and send it going in the opposite direction. Sometimes you can actually lay in more than one hit at a time. And other times, as you can see right there, it came right at me while I was standing on the platform, so I could dish out multiple hits. You can jump to avoid it, or duck if you need to avoid its movement while it's traveling across screen, but it's a pretty easy boss to dodge. Now, this is stage number 3, and since I've been showing off each character as I'm going through, I am now playing as the female of the group, Polly. Now, Polly's main weapon is her razor claws. As you can see, when I attack with her, she actually swipes a few times. This will actually allow you to hit certain enemies multiple times with only pressing the attack button once. However, it is a little bit slower than the other main weapons, whether or not it's the sword or the umbrella for the other 2 characters. So probably due to those facts, I would say Polly is probably the hardest character to get used to, but she's very effective when mastered. Now, as far as stages and difficulty goes, most of the stages are pretty easy to navigate. There's a few with branching paths, but most lead to the correct area in the end, no matter if you pick the top route or the bottom route. There may be a few levels where you may backtrack a little bit but as long as you try some of the different entrances from those stages, you should make it through the levels rather easily. There's only one level where we're going to have to choose multiple doors. Now right now during this part of the level, I'm playing as Batcat. Now Batcat can fly, obviously. You can see he has a little helicopter that pops out of the back of him, and you can see that he can hover over. Now, if you look at the bottom of the screen, you have a help meter. Now that meter slowly depletes while using one of these support characters' special moves, whether or not it's swimming or in this case flying. You can refill that throughout the game by grabbing a symbol that looks like a cat bell, you know, the bell around a cat's neck. Now for our third boss, it's a giant pig flying a pig machine. Now, pretty easy to actually control where it goes because when you hit it, it starts going backwards. The main problem with the boss is defeating the random pigs that it drops out, but when it comes over to the right side of the screen, you can easily attack it. Now here, since I had it, I decided to use her ultimate move, that third level move, and you can see that it threw out some pink blades out and did a lot of damage to the boss. I used that to take out the last couple of hits against it. So for that boss, just really watch and concentrate on those other pigs coming out, because the boss, when it comes around, just attack it once and it'll go back up and then come back down again. Now since I played as all three characters already, I'm going to go back now to the beginning and pick the first character again, Speedy, the main leader of the group. Now it's pretty unfortunate that Tecmo decided not to release this game in North America. I think it could have been a pretty successful game. Even though it was late in the NES run at that point, coming out in 1991, it still wasn't too late to take a chance on an import. And since the television show did make it over to North America, it pretty much would have made sense to go ahead and release this game here. The game did, however, garner a pirated version of it, called Ninja Gaiden, that saw a release outside of Japan. One of the other things to get used to during gameplay is with the running ability, by double tapping the left and right buttons, you also gain a weird jumping mechanic. When you hold the jump button for a long period of time, even after you normally would have just pressed it, if you hold it in for a little bit extra, you'll actually float a little bit upwards, so this will help you reach different ledges that you probably wouldn't have been able to reach before with the normal jump. It's something that's a little bit hard to explain, but it's definitely worth looking into. Now here is our fourth stage boss as I switch back to Speedy. Now for this boss, he bounces around, and as you can see, the momentum and direction is pretty easy to tell where he's going to land. You can use this to your advantage because every time you hit him, he goes backwards, so you can keep bouncing him off the walls, keeping him stuck against the wall before he'll even travel across the screen, and by doing this, just keep laying in hits and you can take him out quickly. The only thing you have to dodge is those 4 projectiles that he shoots out and come down as they kind of rain down, similar to Woodman's ability from Mega Man 2. As long as you're able to dodge them for the most part, you should be okay. Now stage number 5, I'm switching back to Guido and his magical umbrella. Now when we come down to this part, we're going to actually switch to one of the other support cats in order to dig up into this area. When you get to the end here, switch to Meowsma, who can dig through this area, make a nice little platform so you can stand on it, then switch to General Catan in order to jump through and break open those rocks so that you can get by. Now after that area, we have a few rooms back to back with some lava pits to avoid, so make sure you avoid them. Thankfully they're not instant deaths, you'll just lose a bit of health if you do fall into them. Now when we get here, head up the ladder. Then you want to head up the next ladder, and that will end up leading us to our next boss battle. Now our next boss battle is with a giant version of Big Cheese, one of the main adversaries of Samurai Pizza Cats. He is a rat in the North American dubbed release, however, he's actually originally a fox. Now similar to the giant penguin, you actually need to hit him in the head to do damage to him, so I usually like to stay away for a little bit and throw my throwing stars, or my shurikens, at him, and then get in close and start doing more hits to him. Avoid the projectiles that he throws out, as well as the rocks that crash from the ceiling. Now this is just one of the little cutscenes. I thought it was humorous of seeing Big Cheese kind of get blasted off into space as we finish off the level. So now we move on to round number 6, or stage 6, and I'm going to switch now back to Polly for the second time during the course of this run. Now in this stage you can see it's kind of a harbor-based level. There's some ships that were platforming around, and then